Well, thanks so much for joining us for this conversation. We're going to be talking about some common mistakes to avoid in your capital campaign for your church. And I'm joined by my co-host of this conversation, Brian Dodd. If you've not followed Brian Dodd on leadership, you've been featured on Pastor Resources, you've been featured on ESPN, you write leadership stuff all the time, and we both work on the same team, Injoy Stewardship Solutions. And welcome to the conversation.
I am thrilled to be here, thrilled to help some church leaders. And this is a big topic we're talking about. You know, as John Maxwell says, he didn't say the first part, but where there is no vision, the people perish. But where there are no resources, the vision perishes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna help some pastors and church leaders make some vision reality.
And it's a big deal because it's not like you get do-overs. When you ask people to sacrifice for a major initiative, let's list the major initiatives: building a new facility,
debt retirement, relocation, multi-site.
Yeah.
You know,
something that's half a year's budget or more that you need above and beyond regular giving.
Right.
That's what we're defining as a capital campaign. Just thought we should make that clear for everybody.
Exactly.
And there are some mistakes that we see. In fact, a lot of times the phone call to us, the email to us happens because a church has had an oops.
Right.
You know, they went, tried a capital campaign, and it has not raised the resources anywhere near what they needed. And they're kind of at a loss as to why.
Right.
But you've been doing this for how long now?
Just celebrate at the time of this recording, 3 days ago was 22 years.
It's awesome, 22 years.
That's right.
And I've been after this. I hired Injoy back in the day.
You did.
Before I came on the team here in 2006. And I've been involved in capital campaigns ever since. Had no idea that would happen. And we've seen a lot of mistakes. We've seen a lot of great things done. Mm-hmm. So let's share, maybe the first one. I'll share it. Then you kind of put some heat behind it to help them understand it. Sure. I think you just referenced it. It's Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Dr. Maxwell, the founder of Injoy Stewardship Solutions, said that where there's no resources, the vision perishes.
Right.
And a big part of mistakes in capital campaigns is a lack of a clear vision.
Right.
So explain that.
Yeah. So whenever a church wants to do something, and I'm going to tie in kind of the second mistake with the first one because they go together. A church needs the 3 C's when it comes to vision: clear, crisp, and compelling. So clear means we understand, and everybody understands what we're about as a ministry. Okay. We know what our unique spiritual address and thumbprint is given to us by God. We know why we're here. We know why we exist, and we're living that out.
That's awesome.
Okay. So that's the clarity piece. Crisp means it's repeatable.
Yeah.
In other words, Joe, I don't live in Anderson here, but if I moved here and I was new and I started attending a local church, we'd meet at Starbucks or Chick-fil-A or wherever we would meet, Chipotle, we'd meet somewhere, and I'd get invited to church. And I'd say, well, yeah, me and my wife are definitely looking at it. Tell me about your church.
Yeah.
Why should I attend? You got about 30 seconds to reel me in.
Yeah.
You know, if you start out in 1892, a group of men had a heart, okay, you've lost me, okay, but it's got to be crisp. And compelling means I'm willing to give my life to it. Mm. So if that's the vision piece. Now, I'm going to tie in the second one, the project piece. The project project is a kind of umbrella term for what it is we're raising funds for.
Trying to pay off debt,
whatever it may be.
At a youth facility.
Okay, the project must be clearly defined. In other words, hey, Pastor, I'm in. I'd love to help. Exactly what am I given to?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got to be clearly defined, and it's got to be a catalyst for making that vision a reality.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so in other words, and I've always said this, 2008, the banking crisis killed nice. Mm. And here's what I mean by nice. It'd be nice to pay off some debt. It'd be nice to build a family life center. People don't give to nice anymore, but they still give to urgent. Mm. And if it says for us to be the church God has called us to be, it is urgent that we expand our facilities or launch a new campus or build a children's wing. yes, people will still get to that all day long.
I love those 3 C's. In fact, if you're watching this, I would encourage you to write that down. Those 3 C's: clear, crisp, compelling. I'd write those 3 down and ask yourself the question, the vision that you're trying to cast to your church, does it meet that criteria? And I always love the description I've heard about compelling.
Yeah.
Is when the back row, the back row doesn't pay attention like the front row. They just don't. They're passing notes. They still pass notes, even though it's all this long ago. They're still writing little notes, or they're texting, or they're holding up their phone to each other. Right? They're not really paying attention at the level that the front row is. We can agree on that. When the back row is suddenly leaning in, and they've moved from I'm not even paying attention, to an observation of saying, what are they doing? Right. To where it becomes, hey, I want to be a part of that. What are we doing? What can I do to be a part of that? That's compelling. When they start sitting on the edge of their seat, hey, So leader, as you're thinking about the vision, you're casting, you're preparing to cast, try this out on a variety of people. And if they start leaning in and say, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Hey, you're on your way to having a clear, crisp, and compelling vision.
Yeah, definitely. Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
Because that back row is a big deal. Let's talk about that. So this is another mistake churches make. So we've talked about the vision. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the project. Now let's talk about leadership. In a church, you want your leaders, that's positional, that's anybody with a title. Non-positional, those are people with influence but just aren't plugged in at your church yet. And financial. You want your leaders publicly and privately supporting all your church initiatives, especially the campaign in this instance, and you want them answering questions, not asking them.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. That back row's leaning in, but they're not bought in.
Oh.
Okay? So then you're going to go out into the parking lot, or you're going to go into the hallway.
Go pick up your kids in the children's area.
Hey, look, and you're standing there in line, and you're there with a leader in the church. Or you may only know the person you're picking your child up from.
That's right.
Okay? So you're going to ask them, hey, tell me more about what I just heard in there. I mean, is this the right time to do a campaign? There's a lot going on, and uncertainty and inflation and financial issues and presidential elections. And okay, your ability to have equipped those leaders to be multipliers of the mission and vision is critical to get the back row from not just leaning in, but buying in and then participating in your campaign.
That's such an important point. And I think it was Pastor Dan Sutherland who said, nothing will disenfranchise leaders like learning critical ministry information along with the rank and file.
Yeah. And
so that really comes down to this word that goes right with leadership. They run right together, communication.
Right.
So, if one thing that we've seen happen, mistakes in campaigns, is the leader, they get weary of sharing the vision. They feel like they've shared it 39 times. And the statement that we like to say is, you cannot over-communicate vision. By the time you're tired of hearing yourself say it, people are just now starting to comprehend it.
Yeah.
Speak to that.
Yeah. Well, number one, here's a nice catchphrase. So this will be something everybody watching.
Get your pencil ready.
Yes. You can't leapfrog leaders.
Ooh.
Okay. That's a nice catchphrase, and everybody understands that. Okay. And, it's fascinating, Joe. As I do this more and more and more, I'm rethinking some things. So this is fresh info.
Come on.
So I am outwardly processing right now, which means I reserve the right to change my mind in the future.
This is John Maxwell. I like it. Let's go.
The pastors we work with, there are a handful. It's like a bell curve. There are a handful that like the creative part. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're just artists. They like that whole, let's get into the design of the logo kind of thing. And then you got this other end of the bell curve that they love administration and they love data and spreadsheets and numbers. Okay?
My people.
Your people. Most pastors are in the middle. If we can keep a pastor just casting vision, it energizes them.
Yes.
If they're meeting with somebody for breakfast, just cast vision. If you're in a small group, just cast vision. When you're in front of your staff, just cast vision. Definitely when you're on the platform, just cast vision. And if we can keep pastors in the vision casting bucket, this is another way that a campaign can fail. let's take pastors. It's okay to be outside your comfort zone. You don't want to be outside your value or strength zone. Let's take a pastor and misalign him within the organization. That's a great way to mess up.
Putting him in an area that is absolutely vacant of giftedness.
Yeah, that's a great way to mess up.
So this is really important when we think about this communication thing and ensuring that we avoid this common mistake in a church capital campaign is you want to invite your leaders early and often to be able to hear the vision, even if you do not have it fully refined into the crisp, clear, and compelling component, because the leaders in your church are probably leaders in the community. Right. And they're helping move another organization, their workplace, other nonprofits. They're helping move those organizations. Many times they are the leader moving that organization. And we say leaders are insightful, so make them insiders.
Right.
And work out that vision with them, just like you're working this out here. Share that with them, because they think at a different level, and they will help you as a leader move it forward. And that creates a very valuable thing called ownership. All of a sudden, because they had a part in helping refine that crisp, clear, and compelling vision, they become owners of it. And as a result, when the campaign becomes public to the whole church, to the whole community, your leaders are indeed doing what you referenced. They are answering the questions instead of asking them themselves.
Right. Joe, what you're saying here is just so valuable. And, you lead our organization, and it's normative for you to call me and go, hey, we're having these meetings coming up. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's a normative conversation. So here's how that plays out as church. This is for the pastors and the church leaders, just to give them a picture of what you just said. So summer is a great time to disciple financial leaders. Except maybe a mission trip. You're not asking them for anything. It's cookouts, it's ball games, it's going to the lake, it's social events.
Sounds great to me.
Oh, my heavens. It's fantastic. So you're there, and you're just building relationships. Here's what will happen, because they're leaders. They're forward-thinking, just like you said. Hey, pastor, tell me what's coming up at the church. You're able to go, well, you know what? It's not fully formed yet. We're thinking about it and praying about it. I'd kind of like to get your thoughts on it and just kind of see what you initially think. And you roll it out, and then what you said is so accurate. Two things happen. Number one, they'll make your ideas better, okay? And number two, because you've made them an early adopter, when that idea that's in the embryonic stage now gives birth to like a legit ministry initiative, you've already made them early adopters, and they'll help you see the vision become reality. That's so good.
And one of the things that we think is really important in a capital campaign, because we've seen the mistakes, and I just wanted to add this to it that said, rushing it too fast. Many people get so exuberant about this new vision that they race to bring it to the whole church, to the whole community.
Sure.
And they don't have time to bring the leaders along. So they drop it on everybody at once. So they supersede that. But the second component of it is you end up with these challenges of a leader who has not had time to consider what God's given them to help fund it. And I just want to share a statistic with the leaders watching this. This was profound to me, and I think it's helpful for them to know I like data.
You love
data. Data really matters.
You love data.
But 94% of people's net worth is in illiquid assets.
Right.
It's in stuff that they have to do something to convert it to dollars to give. They have to sell that piece of property. They have to liquidate a portion of a business. They have to sell stock, transfer it, whatever it might be. And if they are told right now, and I need the money right now, they don't have time to consider all those things, because the only way to convert it to cash real fast is to fire sale it. And they're going to say that's poor stewardship. So they will not consider everything in their hands to give. But don't make the mistake of rushing it too fast. Give it time. Speak with your leaders, your ministry leaders, your positional leaders, leaders with influence, the E.F. Huttons, as Dr. John Maxwell would call them, and your financial leaders. And when we say give them time, give a general range of how long you would like your leaders to know it before it's dropped on the whole community. What's an ideal time?
Oh, my heavens. I would say 6 months.
6 months minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a year.
Now, you bring something up, Joe, and here's you another catchphrase for everybody taking notes, okay? Food tastes better coming out of a crock pot than a microwave, okay? We all understand that. Ministry initiatives are the same way. Not only if you rush a ministry, and I get urgency, and sometimes the bank is making you do something, especially if you got debt and a note being called something. I get that. But in a perfect world, 6 to 9 months to ramp up a good campaign, not only does it give the financial leaders time to prepare themselves, let's take the people who aren't financial leaders. Now, we're going to do a whole separate coaching on this. But a lot of people from a discipleship perspective in your church need to go from struggling to stability to surrender to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay? And churches that rush it leapfrog straight to sacrifice, and then you have a large majority of your congregation who would have loved to have helped the church.
Yeah.
They just can't. You've not discipled them or helped equip them to participate.
I love that. And I would write those down as well. Leaders, because as we sit in front of church leaders, you talk with hundreds of church leaders a year about their vision that God's given them and helping them really craft that. And that struggling to stability, to surrender, to sacrifice, that process, 70%, remember I like data, 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
They're right there in the struggle bus. And, I love in Mark 12:41-44, where Jesus is commenting on the widow giving all that she had. Well, the people that are living paycheck to paycheck are not going to be able to participate if we don't equip them. Okay. And so that's really important to invite them into it, because it really leads to this next component that a lot of churches make a mistake about, and that's making it always and only about the dollars we're going to raise. Yeah. What's a better approach?
Yeah, and I think we need to talk about trust too, and that's embedded in this. That's pure fundraising.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've all done fundraisers. List some of the fundraisers that you've done.
Oh my heavens! Buy a chair, naming rights on a building, cake sales, car washes,
brownies.
Now's a GoFundMe page. Yeah. That is transaction. That's a transactional process. A much better way to do it, and this fits really well with Christian and spiritual leaders. You want transformation, not transaction. That's the spiritual journey, and that's why you've got the ramp up time. So yes, if you do these quote unquote classic fundraising things, you're not going to get the ongoing generosity, the life change that you want. You're not going to see the overall mission and vision of the church accelerated by a campaign. Should accelerate the mission and vision of the church. Fundraisers will not do that. And here's the thing too: you burn your people out. And as you
got to sell a lot of brownies to raise $2 million.
That's I'm having stress dreams even thinking about that. That's not what you want from a church perspective.
And so if the person is only thinking, we need $1 million, we need $1 million, we need $1 million, they've not gotten the vision. And the spiritual journey, let's unpack that a little more. A spiritual journey is what I think all leaders hope for in their congregation, their faith family, is that they hear the vision and say, what is God inviting our church to be a part of? And what is the expected results? And then we go home and have I love how you describe it, the most important spiritual conversation. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, when I talk to pastors,
it's a special moment.
Yeah, when I talk to pastors and church leaders, I'll say, what is the defining moment of a campaign? The defining moment. Now, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Deciding to build a building, that's a defining moment. Hiring a builder and architect's a defining moment. Rolling out the architectural renderings in the lobby or a virtual flyover in the service is a defining moment. The public launch, when you announce it to the congregation, is a defining moment. Most people think the commitment event is how many people participated and what's their level.
Dollars were committed.
Exactly. Most people think that's
Did we hit our goal?
And then there's a note burning downstream. All of those are defining moments. I don't doubt that, but I don't think any of them are the defining moment. Here is something that I experienced personally, and that I've seen literally tens of thousands of times across the country. There will come a moment in a campaign, and we just went through one at my home church, North Star Church in Kennesaw, Georgia. You will go through a campaign. There will reach a point somewhere week 2 or 3 of the public phase of the campaign in which me and my wife, Sonia, or husband and wife, and if it's a single person, it's them and God, they will sit down at their kitchen table and they will open up their Bible. They'll open up their campaign print collateral. They'll open up their Macs or checkbooks or wherever they keep their finances. And one of them will look at the other and they'll say, hey, pastor and the leadership team's been asking us to pray about what our participation would be in this upcoming project, at the church. What do you think it is God's telling us to do? That's the defining moment.
And it's a very special moment because the family, the individual is saying, I could spend this money a lot of places.
Right.
And I could give it to a lot of very deserving organizations within a 15-minute radius of my church.
Right.
But the reason that they get to that moment, truly holding everything God's given them with an open hand, is because of a word you referenced, trust. You have established trust. Speak to the importance of trust, so that our leaders that are watching this don't make a mistake.
No, I'll tie a bow on this and then roll around the trust. The commitment event is merely the summation of all the individual kitchen tables. Okay? The goal of a campaign is not to raise money. That's a byproduct. The goal of a campaign is not to build a building. That's a byproduct. The goal of a campaign is that an individual or a family will have a deeper level of intimacy with Jesus than they ever had previously.
Yes.
That's the goal of a campaign. Now, trust. Where does trust play into that? I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to give the summation and the talking points for the note takers. Joe, you got a lot of people that work for your organization. There are people that if they bring you an idea, you are more likely to A, receive it, and B, implement it. And there are other people that may bring you an idea that, let's just say, do not receive such a positive response. What's the difference between the two?
Well, Brian, I'm pretty sure it's trust.
It's 100% trust. Now, how was trust built? And this is what's important for the pastor and
leaders watching got the answer too. They knew what the answer
it's
was.
It's David and Goliath.
That's it.
It's David and Goliath. David slayed the bear, slayed the lion. Now bring on Goliath.
Yeah.
The capital campaign is Goliath. You build trust in an organization by making wise and timely decisions over an extended period of time. And have you kept your promises? And have you done these things? If you've made wise and timely decisions over an extended period of time, when you say, God's doing something that he's never done in this congregation before, I want you to join me.
Yeah.
They'll go, okay. If you've not made wise and timely decisions, there's been broken trust, missed expectations, broken promises.
That's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
So, we just shared these with each of you. These are some of the top mistakes that we've seen made in capital campaigns. And our hope is that you're watching this on the front end. And that you are going to be able to incorporate this into your process so that you don't make these mistakes. The statement, you've given some memorable statements here today. I'm going to exit the conversation with one, and that is that when you invest, you can expect a harvest. Right. And it rhymes if you say it right. And when you invest into this vision God has given you, you can expect an abundant spiritual harvest. And that the harvest is proportional to what has been sown. And so as leaders, we want everyone from the front to the back, even those that are in the community who may not be part of our faith family yet, to take note that this church is about reaching people with the good news. And as a result, the vision becomes fully funded. The tools, the building, the debt being eliminated, the campus gets funded, so that life change can take place at a level that it never has before.
Right.
Give one last thought to everybody as we exit the conversation.
No, I think it's been an incredibly helpful conversation. The last thought I would have, Joe, is if you're a pastor or you're a church leader and you're like, we got a major project coming up. God has blessed our ministry so much, we can no longer facilitate it in our current environment. We need to upgrade our facilities. Well, you're going to need to upgrade your funding. And so I'm part of a great team here at Injoy Stewardship. We would love to talk to you about what God's doing at your church. Love to talk about your project. Unpack these ideas at an even deeper level. And, as the dominoes would then play out, if they played out and we got a chance to serve you, we'd be deeply honored. So please let us know how we can serve you, and we're standing by ready to do so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, leaders, for watching this today, and we'll join you again next time with some helpful tips to have successful capital campaigns.